G'day guys and welcome to the English Aussie FPL channel. Today I'm going to go into some statistical analysis on the best defenders, midfielders and forwards, as well as also having my own recommendations on player picks based off what I've seen over the last few weeks in the Premier League and just watching the games. Also, just sort of giving a different lens to what we've been seeing so far over the first 8 weeks. I'll start off with the defenders at the moment, and as you can see at the top of this list, you got Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson, both from Liverpool, with non-penalty expected goals and assists of 0.38 and 0.33. This is all coming really from assists, expected assists. You can see with the low non-penalty expected goals of 0.05 and 0.08. Kind of a little bit surprising from Trent Alexander-Arnold. He hasn't really found himself in situations that look like scoring as much. He used to be on the edge of the box for Liverpool, looking to hit some of those strikes last season. He hasn't quite got into those positions this year. He's more of been mostly an assist threat, both from corners and from crosses. Robertson again, like performing equally as well as Trent, and maybe that gives you a thought to potentially spare that extra 1 million and go for Robertson instead of Trent if you are potentially on a wild card this week. I think if you aren't, not worth making a transfer to make that switch, but if you're looking for an easy way to free up a bit of money, maybe Trent or Robertson could be a good switch for you this week. Third and fourth on the list, Ait Nouri and Matthias de Ligt. Ait Nouri, I think we'll go into in a little bit more detail towards the end. I think his stats are really exceptional, and at his price point of around 4.5 million, he could be a fantastic pick going forwards. Matthias de Ligt, you can see there he's only started 4 games for United, but he missed a couple of games at the beginning of the season, and then since then he's been a regular in the team up until last week, where he was started on the bench against Villa, which I think was a bit of a Ten Hag rotation, and I'd expect to see him starting in all those in the rest of United's games. He's got a very high non-penalty expected goals of 0.25, which is actually the highest on this whole list of defenders, and that's because he's been a real aerial presence for United off corners. He's been swinging into the back post. United have been hitting those long corners to the back post, and de Ligt's been really getting in there and causing trouble for defences. So he could actually be a very interesting pick going forwards, because United actually have some relatively decent fixtures for the next quite a few game weeks. An interesting stat actually that I came across the other day, and maybe I'll flick to and show you guys quickly, is United actually have the player in Onana who has the most points per million per cost in FPL out of any player, more than McNeil, Welbeck, Madueke, Mbeumo, Diaz, Saka, Salah, Palmer, Haaland, all of these guys. The number one player for points per million is Onana of United in goal. So perhaps it is not a terrible shout to go for Matthias de Ligt or even the United defence, given that their fixture run's coming up, is not particularly terrible. And a lot of the big teams at the moment don't have the best fixture run going through. You can see Liverpool here with Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, and Villa. And Arsenal also, after Bournemouth, have Liverpool, Newcastle, and Chelsea. So 2 of the 3 best teams in the league have difficult fixtures coming up. And that leads me on to 2 people on the screen here, which are Rico Lewis at 4.7 million and Guardiola at 5.9 million. Now, City have a fantastic fixture run coming up. You can see Rico Lewis down here, maybe around 15th on the list. Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, and Brighton in 8, 9, 10, and 11, which is a great run of fixtures for City. And he's at non-penalty expected goals and assists of 0.16. Guardiola down a little bit further at 0.14. However, with that run of fixtures for City, and with the fact that these guys, look, this is the top 30 defenders for non-penalty expected goals and assists. So there's lots and lots of defenders that are nowhere near as high as these guys. They're in that top echelon of defenders. And the fact that Liverpool and Arsenal the other two best defences or best teams in the league who concede probably the least goals have difficult fixtures, maybe it's worth considering a City double up in Rico Lewis and Guardiola with their potential for goals and assists and also the potential for clean sheets for Man City over these next 4 game weeks. Yes, they're missing Rodri. Yes, at the potentially missing De Bruyne. Um, but I would say a double up is a really good option because you think one of those two guys is going to play every week. That's sort of if you've got cover in the defensive line on the bench. Say you've got even like a maybe an Nuri, maybe a Greaves, maybe a Wout Fires of Leicester. If you've got some sort of backup fodder on your bench that you don't mind coming in, playing Lewis and Guardiola every week is I think is a really interesting option over these next 4 game weeks for City. And it might be the way that you gain on a lot of people at the moment that are sitting there with Arsenal defence or some of the Liverpool defenders. I think the other team that I just want to call out for having some good fixtures and probably not talked about a lot at the moment is Tottenham. Now, you've got Pedro Porro and Mickey van der Ven on this list at 0.22 non-penalty expected goals and assists. Now, I think Van der Ven's stats a little bit inflated by the fact that one of his assists was really ended up as a tapping, and that plays a big part in that 0.22 expected assist. Pedro Porro there has probably been a little bit more consistent in terms of his potential to get those assists and attacking returns. I mean, if you remember one of Van der Ven's assists, he picked up the ball against United in his own half, ran past about 5 of their players, and then crossed it into the box. I don't think you're going to see many teams fail to defend that poorly every week. Pedro Porro, on the other hand, he is taking shots, he is playing key passes, and Tottenham are not as bad as you think defensively. I know people give Tottenham this bad vibe of being a terrible defensive side, and yes, they did capitulate against Brighton the other week. But actually, if you look at the team ratings for best or worst defences in the league, Tottenham are 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth are the fifth best defense in the league. They're slightly higher than Crystal Palace on this scatter plot, and this is also taking into account the difficulty of the opponents that they've been playing at. So, although people are saying Tottenham, I know historically have been saying that they've been terrible defence. I think there's somebody that over the next few game weeks, if you're either on a wild card or you're looking to change up stuff in the defence, I definitely would consider. I think they're very interesting options. Moving on to the midfield, and I think at the moment this is where everybody is looking and trying to see what sort of moves they can make. And look, the two main guys at the top of this list, Cole Palmer and Bukayo Saka are really the main players that you're going to look at here. Itaro there at Bournemouth is date is a little bit skewed just based off the amount of minutes that he's played, and he's not a regular starter for the team, so we'll probably leave him out of here. Saka at the moment, is he going to be fit? Look, we're not going to know before the deadline. Arteta is never going to tell us any good information about any of his players. I'd expect him to play against Bournemouth. I think based off what Lee Carsley said, they didn't risk him for the second England game, but he had potential to play. I'd say it's pretty likely that he'll play against Bournemouth, but there is a chance that Arteta maybe rests him for Arsenal's upcoming fixture swing with Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea, and also the Champions League games midweek, and maybe just gives him a little bit of extra time to recover. If I had to put my hat on it, I'd say Saka plays, and that's probably what I'm going to be going with unless I hear elsewise. He's currently in my team, and I'm possibly going to leave him in there. We'll see. Cole Palmer, looking at the stats, just looks incredible, doesn't he? 6 goals, 5 assists, non-penalty expected goals and assists of 1.11 per game. The more you look at Cole Palmer's stats, shots, uh, heat maps, the more he looks like an incredible pick and someone that is difficult to go without. The only thing I'd say about him is, to be honest, like I've not been keen to pick him up until I really looked into all of this, just because that fixture run, Liverpool, Newcastle, United, Arsenal, in my opinion, none of those are fantastic games for attackers. Liverpool, tough game. Newcastle have been playing better recently. Man United have been one of the best defences in the league. Uh, believe it or not, Arsenal are probably one, if not the best defence in the league. Um, so I think it's really possible, and my mind's really not made up on this, on leaving Cole Palmer out for a couple of game weeks until maybe, you could bring him in 9, 10, or 12, really, I think, in the game weeks if you want to hit Palmer. I think he's a great option. I think if you've got him, you keep him. I think if you don't have him, it's up to you and whether you've got those transfers available to make that, and whether you think he's a better pick than a Saka or a Son with their fixtures. The Saka injury definitely gives some food for thought for those Saka owners and whether they go to Cole Palmer now. The other only thing I would say is Liverpool without Alisson. That's a big loss for Liverpool. Alisson commands that defence and also plays a really important role with playing out from the back with his feet. Um, I'm assuming Kelleher will be playing. I know he wasn't there in the last game for Liverpool, and they played their third string keeper, who just couldn't play out from the back at all. Kelleher is better than their third string keeper, obviously, but again, he's not fantastic at playing out from the back with his feet and as good as Alisson. So the fact that Liverpool are not going to have that much possession, or not going to have as much possession, means that there are going to be more opportunities for Chelsea. And if they're going to be pressing higher up the pitch, they could cause Liverpool some problems at the back. After Palmer and Saka, you can see Salah and Barnes up there quite a lot. Now, Harvey Barnes for Newcastle, since he's been in the starting, when he's been in the starting lineup, has been doing bits for Newcastle. To be honest, look at that non-penalty expected goals 0.81 is crazy, and they're not all simple and easy. Like, it's not like he's got some big chances. Like, he's created stuff for that expected goals and assists. And he has started, I think, five of the last 5 games, or maybe 4 of the last 5 games. I'm not sure if he started against Wolves. Might have come on at half time off the bench. And after that, you got Diaz, De Bruyne, Savio, Jota, Dama Traore. Now, I think I've got, and we'll go on this next page to 2 other people who I think are, outside of Saka and Palmer, are probably 2 really interesting differential picks that you could go for this game week. Now, I think Son. I think Andrew will tell you if he's back or not. Andrew's a proper Aussie. He doesn't beat about the bush. He's not into F spiders. He'll let you know if Son's available or not. He's good in the press conferences. And if Son is available, that fixture run, West Ham, Palace, Villa, Ipswich, I mean, that could be a really nice fixture run for attacking options for Spurs. And Son, as we know, is a fantastic attacking option. 0.62 expected goals per game. I think Son often outperforms his expected goals and assists because he is such a good finisher. Also, a very dynamic player. Spurs are playing very free, like very free flowing sort of attacking, carrying the ball up the field football. And I would expect Son to get some returns over the next 4 game weeks. The other person I want to talk about, Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne, if he's back from injury for this Man City run, I would say is close to being a must-have in your squad. I don't think we'll probably get any new. It's unlikely we'll get any confirmation of whether he'll be in the team or not for game week 8. But if he is in the team or on the bench for game week 8, that game week 9 against Southampton, to have De Bruyne in your team for the City fixtures over the next 3-4 game weeks would be fantastic. And really, like, City have not been the same beast without De Bruyne. De Bruyne up there at 0.74 expected goals and assists per game, and he really was running the show in those first 4 games for Man City before he got injured. He was really feeding Haaland, and you can see even Haaland sort of dropped off a little bit post De Bruyne getting injured. And those two just have the same sort of link up that like a Gerrard Torres, Gerrard Suarez used to have back in the day for Liverpool. It's almost telepathic, some of the play that they play between each other. It's really incredible to watch. And yeah, I think if you don't already have Triple City, I'd really suggest, if De Bruyne is fit, looking at him as one of my key players I would have in the team going forwards. Some of the cheaper guys you can see on here, Darwin Traore, we'll talk about a little bit later, Semenyo, Brennan Johnson, Garnacho, also all not bad picks. I know Man United, everyone wants to stay away from them, but good fixture run. And Garnacho definitely over like a Bruno Fernandes I would have in the team. I think playing on the wings, much more likely to get attacking returns for United. Bruno's, yeah, he's in there in the middle, but after the first couple of game weeks, once Xerxes and now Holgen started playing up front, Bruno's not been making as many of those darting runs where he was playing up front really in a lot of those games before. Garnacho, if he's grabbing the starts for Man United, I think it's him and Rashford are 2 of United's most likely to score goals. I'd probably go Garnacho just because I think he's unique in the way he plays the game, and yeah, he's an electric player. Moving on from midfielders, looking at the forward lineups, really crazy at the top. You can see there Nicholas Jackson at 1.06 expected goals and assists per game. I think again, like both him and Palmer obviously leading the way, and it's probably based just off the great chances Chelsea have created, especially in that 6-goal thrubbing that they had of Wolves. And Jackson obviously has been a big part of that Chelsea offense, being their main striker. He's playing. He's starting every game, playing 60 minutes plus. Already scored 4 goals, 3 assists. If it wasn't for Chelsea's fixture run, I would say a really good option to have. Because of Chelsea's fixture run, I'd say you go for either one of Jackson or Palmer. I think it's tough to say Chelsea are going to slaughter their next 4 oppositions. For me, I think Palmer with penalties. If you're going to go for one, that's probably the way I'd go. Yeah, if you're looking for a slightly cheaper striker from maybe a Watkins, and you want to downgrade to a Jackson, and you've got a Saka and you want to keep him this week, sure. Or if you want to upgrade someone in the midfield, maybe have a Salah and a Saka, and then have Jackson up front, no problem. Erling Haaland there at number 2. I think you've got to have Erling Haaland in your team for those 4 game weeks. If you don't get him in, find a way. I don't think other players will cover him. I think he's the player to have in over this next 4 game weeks for City. I think it's silly to go out without him. Dominic Solanke there, 4th on the list, 0.84. Like we've been talking about, Spurs with a really good fixture run. I think he's also a great option. 2 guys that I've highlighted here on the right-hand side, Raul Jimenez and Calvert-Lewin. Jimenez at 0.78 expected goals and assists. Now, look, a lot of that, or I would say 0.15 of that has come from 1 assist that he made for, I think, Andreas Pereira, where he did that incredible backheel when Pereira had a tap in. That 1 assist itself over his 4 starts is worth 0.15 on that expected goals and assists. It was a 0.6 chance across the 4 games. So, I mean, if you brought that down a little bit after that chance, it would be sitting on 0.63. He'd be sitting around that level of Welbeck, Muniz, Xerxes. And I think with this fixture run that they've got for Fulham, Villa, Everton, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Fulham's fixture run is actually looking quite good over that period of time. And I really think Raul Jimenez is somebody at the moment starting for Fulham. And after Palace, they've got Wolves at home, Spurs away, Brighton, and then 15-16, they got some tough games in Arsenal and Liverpool. But I would say over the next 5 game weeks, Raul Jimenez is really someone to consider having in there if you want a cheap option up front at 5.6 million. I'd say he's probably one of my top options. The other guy I've got here on the list, Calvert-Lewin, 6 mil, expect non-penalty expected goals of 0.31 and expected goals and assists of 0.34. Look, he's got the non-penalty expected goals same as Raul Jimenez. I think they'll both, if they're on the pitch, the only thing to consider is Calvert-Lewin will be on penalties. Jimenez is not going to be on penalties. Andreas Pereira has been said that he's keeping penalties for Fulham. So that is one thing to consider. And Everton do have a fantastic fixture run as well coming up. You've got Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham. Ipswich and Southampton are probably 2 of the teams that you're going to want to be targeting all season with the fixture runs. So I think, he's going to be leading the line for Everton. I know Everton have not been doing great, not been scoring a lot of goals. But Dom Calvert-Lewin, he's the guy spearheading that lineup. And I think at that 6 million, 5.6 million price point, him and Jimenez are probably the 2 best picks out there. I'd also throw in a shout out to Jamie Vardy. He's also got Southampton and Ipswich in 2 of his next 3 games. Leicester have got a good fixture run as well here. A lot of the good fixtures over the next few weeks are all lower table sides. So if you do have one cheap attacker in your team, you're going for one of the cheaper attackers, you want to focus on maybe one of these 3 teams, a Fulham, a Everton, or a Leicester, and then maybe going forwards a little bit later. You can see after this Brighton run of Newcastle, Wolves, Liverpool, Man City, after City, Brighton have got some good games, and that's maybe when you want to switch to a João Pedro, a Danny Welbeck post then. So I think that's what I'd target. You can see the fixture run changes a little bit in 12. If you want to switch out one of these strikers after that, I think that's the time to make moves or rejig your team a little bit. These are my personal picks for the week, not just based on stats, but also based off what I've seen live in play. I think Brennan Johnson obviously scored 7 in his last 7, including Champions League games. I still think that his finishing is not incredible, but since the beginning of the season, you've actually seen a clear improvement in his finishing. I think he's definitely been working on it in training. He gets into great positions, and with Spurs' run of fixtures coming up, he's just someone that I think if you're not going for Son in your team, Brennan Johnson over the next few game weeks is a must-have. At 6.6 million with non-penalty expected goals and assists of 0.59 in Spurs, who are one of the best attacking teams in the league and one of the better teams, so they're going to be creating more chances with a good fixture run. I think he's almost a must-have. Now, another one of my picks is Adama Traore. Now, Adama at 5.1 million. The reason I've gone for him is because I think he's a really interesting sort of differential for a Morgan Rogers, who most people will have in their team at the moment. I know he's probably not got all the biggest returns that you're looking for, but at 5.1 million, he's been involved in a lot of Fulham, the way Fulham plays. The way Fulham plays is, they carry the ball forwards at pace. Adama's running those wings. Marco Silva's really trying to maximise the effectiveness of the way of having Adama in the team, and he's really been key and integral to them going forwards. You can see Fulham are one of the teams that actually make the most progressive carries with the ball in the game. And that means like, they're running the ball and progressing the ball up the field with dribbles through the game, and they're trying to move quickly through the pitch. And that really suits Adama. Obviously on the wing, he's lightning. I think if you saw the other week, he had a foot race with Walker and he destroyed him. I've never seen anybody destroy Kyle Walker in a one-on-one sprint like that. That was mental. But yes, the one thing I would say is his finishing is as bad as a goalkeeper. Honestly, it's horrendous finishing. But he has created chances. He does have opportunities to score. He gets into those positions. At some point, those goals have got to come. I think Adama could be a really good shout over the next few game weeks with Fulham fixtures. Ait Nouri at 4.4 mil, non-penalty expected goals and assists of 0.31. He's actually had 9 shots on goal already, I think, this season across those games. At 4.4 million for Wolves, I know Wolves this week have Man City, but after that they've got a great run of games for 8-9 game weeks until 17 when they have Leicester, and then 18 they've got United. And I think if you're looking for a budget option in defence and you're looking around that 4 to 4.5 million mark, Ait Nouri at 4.4 million is an absolute steal player. He might not be there, he might not be someone you're playing every week in your team, but over the next 8-9 game weeks, he's going to be someone that if you need someone in as a rotation, or if you're looking to play him each week and put some money into your midfield, he's definitely worth the punt. I know Wolves are not looking like they're going to keep any clean sheets anytime soon, but perhaps over this fixture run they might grab 1 or 2 clean sheets, and Ait Nouri might really pay dividends in that slot. Other one on the list, no surprises, Erling Haaland, playing for Man City. Man City's fixture run's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. I know there are people that are thinking that that he hasn't scored in the last couple of game weeks. And yes, City have not looked as good going forwards, but he's just got to be in your team. He's just got to be in your team. I wouldn't go without him over the next at least 4 game weeks, at least 3 game weeks. I think I'd say 4 games. Brighton in 11, and then Spurs and Liverpool. I struggle to see myself going out without Haaland for the next 4 game weeks. I think he's the man for the job. I think that's those are the main things that I really wanted to talk through for you guys. Hopefully these stats have given you a little bit of an insight into some of the different players and how they're performing. Thanks a lot for listening. Leave comments below on what players you think are good picks for game week 8, and if you've got any questions about your team that I can help with, let me know. Thanks a lot, guys.